Excellent.
Good, 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 good. Thank you for your patience. Let's get right into it. We are, I believe, on chapter 13. Law 13, don't manage your time, manage your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so TJ, I'm gonna start with you, man.
All right.
Okay. Here's the question. How are you doing in relationship to your time? More specifically, the question that's asked on page 115. Am I getting the best use out of my time?
The short answer to that is no.
Okay.
Am I working on it? Yes. It's one of those things where I try and be very intentional about my time, but often it just seems like my time gets sucked away, and I get to the end of the day, and it's 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, and I'm like, man, I didn't get anything done that I needed to get done today, and I've just been working on fires and getting pulled all different directions all day.
Yeah.
I try to, at least each morning when I get in, I set up a priority list, and I set it up as important and urgent, important not urgent, urgent not important, and then not important and not urgent.
Yep.
And try and put each thing on that I know first thing in the morning, on there.
Mm-hmm.
And I try and stick with that as much as possible. But I find often throughout the day, I've got so many things tossed on top of me that I end up getting pulled off my list and end up reacting to things that are probably more on the urgent, not important side when I really should just be adding them to my list and keep working on the important stuff. And so I start off with a plan for the day, and I'm not necessarily as good at always sticking with that as I should be.
What do you think derails you from the plan?
Email, phone calls, texts. It's just like, you're constantly getting stuff throughout the day that somebody needs something now, or even if they don't need it now, you see it pop up and you're like, oh man, I can knock that out real quick.
Right. Versus staying on the task at hand, the most important thing.
Yeah. Or even sometimes, when you're working on an important task, you get to a point where you're waiting on somebody or something to where you can continue doing what you need on that. So then I, hop off that task and move to something else. But then getting back to it's tough when that other piece to the puzzle gets done.
Yeah, because you get sidetracked and it messes the momentum of what it is that you were doing at that particular period of time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Did you have an opportunity? I like the fact that you've done the 4 quadrants in terms of understanding importance and urgency. Did you have an opportunity to take a look at page 117 and look at the scoring system that John presents?
I got it as an ebook, so I've
okay.
It's all audio, so I haven't actually seen the page.
Yeah, so basically it talks about on page 117, it talks about step 1, step 2, and step 3. Step 1 is rate the task in terms of importance. So the rankings are critical is 5, necessary is 4, important is 3, helpful is 2, and marginal is 1. And so for each particular task, as you're listing the task for that particular day or that week or the month, whatever the case may be, you can assign whether it's critical, necessary, important, helpful, and marginal. And then step 2 is decide the urgency. So something that needs to be done this month is a 5, next month is a 4, this quarter is a 3, next quarter is a 2, end of year is 1. And so as I'm reading through that, I was thinking to myself, we could add additional points for if it was something that needed to be done this week is a 6. If it was something that needed to be done today, it's a 7. So that if it was something that needed to be done today, it's a 7. a week is a 6. If it needs this month is 5. Next month is a 4. This quarter is a 3. Next quarter is 2. And end of the year is 1. And so what we don't want to do is fall into making everything the most important thing, because everything is not the most important thing. And so step 3 talks about multiply the rate of importance times the rate of urgency. So if you have something that's critical and it needs to be done at the end of the year, then the total score is only going to be 5 points, because critical is 5 multiplied by the end of the year, which is a 1. The total number is 5. Versus you've got a client that has to close within 7 days, which makes it critical, and it makes it this week, which is a 6. So that score would be 42. And so I find this to be a really good formula for understanding how to prioritize our days based upon all the tasks that we have for each other. So we want to make sure that we get that to you, or make sure that you have it, because I really think that priorities is one of the things that challenge people in terms of getting the best use of their time. And so this formula is a quick and easy way to kind of give it a point value to determine its level of importance and urgency.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because right now with my quadrants, I've got everything that I mark important is kind of in the same category. But if I can do values of each thing, that's important to figure out how quickly it needs to be done, then it lets me figure out more, more of the urgency and how important it is to get it done today versus tomorrow versus,
Yeah, I sent him a picture of that page. So
okay, good. Awesome. Thank you so much. Scott, are you getting the best use out of your time?
Definitely not. I think I alluded to this last week about how I try to plan out my day and then try to be intentional, but yet I don't follow it exactly how I have planned. And it's funny because I was just looking at some of the bold laws that says, all work expands and take up the time you allow, and how I let other things sidetrack me and get me away from what I need to do is my most important things.
Yeah. What do you think is one of the things that you allow to sidetrack you?
I think a lot of times it comes down to when I get the things that maybe make me feel uncomfortable or I don't want to do. So I'll let things sidetrack me to things I want to do. There are things that need to be done. It just doesn't have to be done at that time. Whereas what's supposed to be the most important thing, which sometimes is the most uncomfortable thing to do. So I kind of out of the gate and do the less important things, and then eventually, hopefully, I'll come back to the most important thing I should be doing. But a lot of times it doesn't get done, or at least to the effect it should be.
Yeah. I want to I want to read the definition of the term distraction to you. Okay. A thing that prevents someone from giving full attention to something else. And the synonyms is interruption, disturbance, interference, and hindrance. Does that sound familiar?
Very much so.
Okay. So TJ was talking about how priorities sometimes get out of whack as it goes through the course of the day. I hear Scott saying that there are things that I allow to be distractions, even though there are enjoyable things that I do. There's still distractions from the most important things that need to be done on a daily basis.
So yeah, I would say priorities also tend to see
Yeah.
a lot of things interrupt what I should be doing.
Okay. Nanette, same question. Are you getting the best use out of your time?
Of course not, but I am better. You've known me for a while. I used to really be off the wall, and so and my brain just doesn't even slow down. So, but I'm better, and I think what I have done since the fall is I have now drafted a picture of what the ideal day looks like. I haven't been able to implement it yet, but I've at least written it down,
Okay.
And I have all of the notes on one piece of paper rather than scattered in 5 different places.
Right.
So that's helped. And I have shared it with someone else so I can have accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And my plan is to implement this this week, actually, implement this ideal day beginning X day. And then what I'm going to do is actually keep score for myself. I have a calendar that every day I do implement and I win that day, I get a little star or whatever, just so that I can keep track of how many days a week am I doing this in relation to my production.
Yeah. Very good. One of the things that when I was thinking about this question that challenges my time is fatigue. There are times that I'm just so worn out, physically, emotionally, mentally. It's not necessarily all of them at the same time. But right now, I think one of the challenges that I have is a fatigue. And it's not so much a physical fatigue as it is fatigue of all the things that are in my head that I know I need to do, that I should do, and have a certain level of energy and mindset around it, that when you're doing other things that pull out of your energy, it impacts the level of energy that you can bring to the most important things.
So
and because
there's balance with that, making sure that you've got time for regeneration as well as to give out. When you're in a situation where you're giving, you need that time to regenerate.
How does Nanette regenerate?
A lot of ways, but I've been making sure that I have time for my hobbies.
Okay.
That my life is not just all real estate. You know, making sure that there's enough time for wine.
Okay. Enough time for wine.
Yeah. You know, it's hard to drink wine when you're showing property listing appointments.
Yes.
Really conducive.
Do you have wine time on your calendar?
I got wine time on the calendar, man. Everyone should have wine time or whiskey time, whatever it takes, you know. And I like to sew. I just making sure that I have time to, you know, read and rebuild. The reading really rebuilds me. And just time to veg and, you know, just enjoy my environment, my surroundings. That I so often I find myself rolling so much that I don't even have the opportunity to sit in my own home and enjoy my house.
Yeah.
You know, so making sure I have that, because I got a nice place to live and I spent a lot of money on it. And here I am just not even being there.
Right. Which defeats the purpose, correct?
Right. It's not a good life. You're making sure that I have time for the grandkids, and I'm making sure that I do all of these things on top of production, which really is more important, you know, so I don't sell one extra house, but you know what? I get to go spend time with the kids.
Yeah.
So, and
Scott, how do you, go ahead, Nanette. Yeah. Scott, how do you regenerate?
Well, I think like Nanette said, you schedule time to do the things you want to do. There's certain events I like going to, certain things I like to do. I definitely kind of shut down by 8 o'clock at night. I just kind of, you know, after 8 o'clock, I try not to do any business, or just try to do, you know, just personal what I want to do. And then, you know, I try to have at least one day during the weekend of just, you know, only doing things I want to do, not, you know, not working around the house, not working, period, just, you know, a day for me.
Right. Yeah.
You know, vacations from time to time. Don't do a lot of them, but every now and then you can take a nice vacation.
Cool. TJ, how do you regenerate?
I do a lot of cycling and running. I'm signed up for an Ironman.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it regenerates me, but it also wears me back out. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, because I get there and it helps me with my the mental issues, you know, from, you know, all the stress and whatever, get all that out. But then I get into that issue where I'm fatigued just physically, because I'm so hard and I'm working so hard. And so then I end up getting worse on my my scheduling and stuff. And it kind of can turn into a downward spiral if I'm not careful. So I have to be very careful because, you know, I love working out, I love exercising, but when I do it really hard and I'm really training hard, it can kind of lead to that downward spiral where it backfire a little bit.
TJ, let me ask you a specific question, okay?
Sure.
Not related necessarily to how I manage time better. The question is there something that you do that impacts what you do professionally that you could do better, that in turn would help you spend less time on it? So I guess it's a question of efficiency.
So your question is, can I be more efficient at what I do?
Yeah, is there one aspect of what you do that takes more time than it should?
Yes, I think that's qualifying people for the mortgages. You know, because it's really time consuming when you get borrowers and trying to figure out, like, for instance, I've got this one right now. This guy's got several businesses. He's got a bunch of rental properties. He's got, you know, all this income from all over the place, and just trying to piece it all together and figure out, you know, what is his actual income and does he qualify? I mean, you could spend hours, especially on this file. I've spent hours just trying to figure out how to do that. So I'm really, in my mind, I'm looking to try and find a teammate that's got some sort of processing or underwriting background to hire that can help me with that kind of stuff on the front end. Because the part of the business that I enjoy is the meeting people, the building relationships, the getting out and bringing business in. I don't, you know, the figuring out, it's kind of fun because it's kind of like solving a puzzle, but at the end of the day, it's one of those things that just drains me. And the more I do it, and, you know, the more people I talk to, it just kind of starts dragging me down. Whereas the meeting people, talking with them, building those relationships is the part that energizes me and helps me be excited about what I do. So I've decided that I need to find somebody that can help take over part of that aspect of my business and help me grow and be more efficient.
Nanette, same question. Is there something that you're doing right now that you could be more efficient at doing?
Yeah.
What would that be specifically?
Oh my, I give you everything.
Okay.
And I'm trying to fine tune it. I'm a systems girl. I really like systems. Give me a system and so I'm developing that system right now. Winning my morning. Let's break it down. Just winning the morning and what that looks like. And so that I could be doing more efficiently. Yes. And so I have been breaking it down a minute by minute, what that looks like, and then writing it down. And so that I'm going to put it in a spot that I know I'll see in the morning. And so it'll tell me what to do, because oftentimes I'll sit here at the desk and I'll go, okay, what should I do first? You know? But if I already have that there, exactly what you're supposed to do first, I don't have to think about what to do first. I want this system I want it to be a system, and I automatically do it, and it just becomes something I do repetitively without thinking. I guess, and what keeps me, I guess, from being effective is focus. I guess being able to focus.
What keeps that focus from occurring?
It's the inability to prioritize. So,
okay.
I mean, I'll sit down, I'll sit here and I'll go, oh God, what next? I'm overwhelmed. So,
right.
And so I'm implementing a thing so I don't have to think about it. I don't have to think, what do I do next? It's written. I know exactly.
Do you believe that page 117 can help you with the prioritization piece?
Yeah. And it has. And it definitely has. Yeah.
Cool.
And so
Scott. Yeah, go ahead.
So I got it written down, and So yeah, and I even shared it with someone else, and it will be implemented this week.
Awesome. An action and taking change. That is a wonderful thing. Scott, is there one thing specifically that you can think of that you can change or address that would make you more efficient and or effective?
Most certainly. I think I need to look at some of the processes, and then there's some software, some different things out there that'll help me become a lot more efficient at it. And I don't know if it's still my number one thing that I sometimes I just don't always do. I need to look at that and look at ways of improving. And something we've been talking about as a team recently, about adding some stuff to make us more efficient. I think that would really help out.
Mm-hmm. I find it interesting. We talk a lot about in the Keller Williams world, what is talked about is people, systems, and tools, right? And so I was listening to the responses that you all are given, and basically you hit on those things. TJ was talking about finding someone that can help him take some of this 80% off of him. Nanette was talking about, I'm a systems girl. There are systems that I need. Scott's talking about any particular tools that are coming into place. It really does come down to people, systems, and tools that really help us become more effective in how and being great stewards of our time. And on page 118, it was talking about life management, that we focus a lot of times on time management versus life management. Life management begins with an awareness of time and the choices we should make to be a good steward of it. Those who do well at it do things that, number one, advance their overall purpose in life. This is something that's been a really big conversation for me and some of my coaching clients right now, is really understanding what their purpose is. And Paul Martinelli, who is the CEO of the John Maxwell team, he was asked a question with regards to how do you go through the decision-making process to be a better decision maker in the day-to-day walk that you have. And his response is that it's always around purpose. Does this thing help me become in more harmony with my purpose or in less harmony with my purpose? And so this is something that he asks himself constantly when there's new opportunities, tiny, shiny objects that come in front of us, people who have great pitches for new opportunities. The question should always be, does this move me in harmony, closer in harmony with my purpose, or move me away from the harmony, my harmony with being in my purpose? And so that's one of the things I would share with you guys, is making sure that you're asking self questions about things that could distract you or occupy your time. Are those things actually moving you forward towards your purpose?
In growing up, one thing I learned was before you go buy something, whether it be a pair of shoes or a car or whatever, one thing that I was taught is to say, okay, if these shoes cost $500, how much time is it going to cost me?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, how long does it take me to earn that $500? So I'm not really giving up the $500. I'm giving up the time that it took to make that $500 to buy those shoes. Okay. And that really puts things into perspective. Am I willing to, if I make, $10 an hour, that's a long, long time to invest for those shoes.
Absolutely.
If I'm making, $250 an hour, then I'm invested 2 hours to buy those shoes. Am I willing to give 2 hours of my time to buy those shoes?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's really about the time. That's my collateral. That's that's what I'm giving up.
So that's an interesting segue. If we move over into Law 14, keep learning to keep leading, right? There's a question that's on page 124 that's in the center of the page. It says, what is your plan for personal growth? So My question for you, Nanette, is that question. And the follow-up question is, are you consistently investing in your personal growth?
What is my plan? Yes, yes, yes. I have a plan for personal growth. It is written down, and I invest in it daily. And it was a mic drop for me when I read, the main thing is if you don't have a plan for growth, then don't expect to grow.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you don't eat your vegetables, you'll never get strong. Your mother was right.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you don't have a plan, it's just, you just sit there like, and I've seen people do it, you know, and those are the people I don't want to be like.
Scott, do you have a plan for personal growth, and do you consistently invest in it?
Yeah, so one of the great things about the Bold class, they kind of force you to do a plan for personal growth. I think I'm coming up where my current plan by the year is getting close to being ending. But I am currently always investing in it, which is, select a book to read per month, and then attend a certain amount of events. Make sure I get the educational background that I need to advance my, my team and advance myself.
Okay.
So it is, like I said, it is coming time for me to do another one, as because a year is coming out since the last one I did.
What does your growth plan look like the one you currently have? What's the contents of it?
The biggest thing is, plan for a book. Try to do a book a month, and then pick different educational events for each month, like something to go to. So, the primary example is might be mega camp or family reunion.
Yep.
Last year, I took a very aggressive stance and did GRI and CRS classes, and did those by the end of the year. So I've been kind of back off a little bit from some of the educational things this year, because last year was such a intense year, because I did Bold twice and did I think about 6 or 7 GRI classes.
Yeah.
That was just so intense.
Mm-hmm. And that impacts with the time, with the calendar, correct?
It does. It does. And
so we have to balance the urgent and important, and also with our growth plan, and also with what helps us re-energize, right? So it's kind of like a juggling act, right?
It is.
The growth plan, the urgent and important things, as well as the things that help us stay sane.
Definitely.
And our calendar really should reflect that, so that we're getting that the balancing act is happening in a way where it's consistent and we're growing in the areas where it is that we want to grow. TJ, do you have a personal growth plan, and do you consistently invest in it? I know you've talked about a lot about, I think Nanette said winning the morning, right? Nanette, that's what you said.
Yeah.
And TJ, through past conversations, you kind of have the same mindset, is let's start by winning the morning, correct?
That's correct. So that's something I've learned from my coaching I'm doing. And definitely lately I've not been winning as much as I'd like, but the plan is to get up and invest time in reading and in some meditation and exercise, and just starting my day off like an hour earlier than I normally would, just to kind of get all that stuff in, and kind of, like Annette said, win the morning, and then, kind of have a plan for when I get into the office. First thing I'm going to do is, X, Y, and Z. And I've been consistent with that in the office, is getting my marketing systems and everything in. That's kind of getting off topic. Anyway, as far as my growth plan, I don't have like a specific like books that I want to read or anything, but I'm constantly reading. So as soon as I finish a book, I pull up another one. And a lot of it's just because I'm in the car so much. Most of the stuff I'm doing is audiobooks, and just anytime I'm in the car, I'm trying to learn and read. And my coaching has a lot of different resources that videos and podcasts and that sort of thing. So I'm watching stuff on that. So I'm continually striving to learn well, but I don't have a specific written out growth plan per se.
Okay. So let's, if you don't mind, let's do a quick exercise. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. The main question I will ask you is, and this is not something that you have to answer specifically right now. It's something that I want you to think about as you're putting together a written growth plan. Okay. One of the things that we say in the Maxwell organization, Chris Robinson is one of the faculty members, for lack of a better term, and he says that he reads to address a challenge. So if he identifies something that needs to be addressed in his work or personal, whatever the case may be, there's a book for it. So I think one of the things that I would encourage you to do is to identify 3 or 5 challenges that you're having or things that you're going to need to address to help you be more effective in what it is that you do. And from there, choose books. So, for example, I have a desire to be a better leader. And so in that scenario, I've actually put together for myself and then for my clients and other people that want to get involved, basically a 52-week leadership read. So there are 3 books. One is the one that we're doing right now, Leadership Gold. One is Develop the Leader Within You 2.0, which I mentioned to you guys last week. And then the third book is the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And so if you take the 26 laws that are in this book, right, and you have another 21 laws for the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and then there are 10 laws within the Develop the Leader Within You 2.0. If you add those numbers, it basically gives you 57. You all follow that? Nice. So literally, I could read 1 law a week and apply that law through the course of a year.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So if anybody wanted to develop their leadership skills over the course of a year, there is a simple way to do that. 1 law at a time. And basically taking the law, the principle, and then finding a way to apply that law to your life to help you become a better leader. So that would be an example of creating a plan for leadership development, right? So if it was personal growth, one of the things I would recommend would be the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. That would be a great book to read. There's other people out there, Tony Robbins, Mel Robbins, Brene Brown. There are individuals that are out there that talk a lot about personal growth and helping you become better in what it is that you do in your personal walk. And so taking 1 box at a time and focusing on that box allows you to be more efficient in your growth and yet more consistent. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. So instead of trying to eat a whole elephant, let's do it 1 thing at a time, figuring out what my challenges are, where it is that I want to grow, and then coming with something methodical that is reasonable from a time standpoint. And it becomes something that becomes a habit where you just immediately reach for the book when you're beginning to win the morning. And so I find that a lot of people, because we were doing this exercise we're reading a book, Think and Grow Rich right now by Napoleon Hill. And one of the assignments we had to do was read the chapter on persistence, 14 straight days without a miss.
Wow.
And the reason for that is that he wanted to program us on discipline, because we do get busy, we do get fatigued, we do let things distract us. And yet, if we want something, we will prioritize it. And that exercise really challenged all 3 of those things. There was a day that I was tired and I couldn't read until late, and I did it. There was times where I was distracted by other people, places, and things, And yet even if I had to break it up, I still found the time to be able to do it. So we've got to be strategic about not allowing people, places, and things to impact the priorities that we have. So whether it's a book, whether it's a conference, whether it's a training, a certification, you want to make sure that you're listing out. And I agree with Scott, it's really good to have 12 books that you want to target in the year, because we should be reading a book a month. And it does work out to be about 10 to 12 to 15 pages a night over the course of a particular year. And it's amazing how much growth that we can have over a year when we have a specific plan with a specific goal and a specific curriculum. And that comes down to, if you look on page 127, it comes down to having an attitude of teachability. Over on 127, in his talking about his book, Winning with People, he writes about the learning principle, that every person we meet has the potential to teach us something. And so we've got to be open to the fact that we should be continual learners and not fall with the illusion of knowledge, basically saying that we know everything, right?
I love that. It says, contrary to popular belief, the greatest obstacle to discovery isn't ignorance or lack of intelligence, but it's the illusion of knowledge. So when I see that person that might be considered ignorant or lack of intelligence, I simply say in my mind, he is just delusional on his, he is an illusion of knowledge.
Yeah.
It's a nicer way of saying you're stupid.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to point out to you guys was over on page 128. When I first heard this, I heard this specifically come out of John's mouth, John Maxwell's mouth, with regards to a highly disciplined growth regimen, which is at the bottom of page 128. Okay. There's no substitute for continual learning. Over the years, I have developed a highly disciplined growth regimen. He reads daily to grow in his personal life. He listens daily to broaden his perspective. He thinks daily to apply what he learned. And he files daily to preserve what it is that he learned. And so if you're someone that's looking to grow for the purposes of yourself, these are good steps towards a regimen to win the day when it comes to developing yourself in a particular area where you want to develop. Now, what's interesting is that if one of your goals is to write a book, this is the same regimen. The only thing that needs to be added is I write every day. Whether it be one sentence, one paragraph, one page, you have to get in the regimen of writing every day. So that was the fifth thing that he added to this regimen is that he writes every day. And the next thing you know, he's got over 100+ books written, and 5 of them have sold at least 1 million copies. So doing the simplistic things consistently over a course of time, you experience the exponential growth from compound interest, for lack of a better term. Okay. So over on page 129, it talks about creating a growth environment, and more specifically over on page 130, it gives you what things occur in a growth environment. So Scott, I'm gonna start with you first. If you have your book in front of you, which one of these do you experience consistently in your life when it comes to a growth environment?
I think all of them kind of somewhat pertain, but definitely with my focus is forward. Probably one I would say, if I had to pick one, I would definitely go, my focus is forward.
How are you intentional around that? Because I've heard you talk about how one of the challenges, if I remember correctly, is that there are times that you allow that voice of past experience to creeping in to kind of create an obstacle for you.
Yeah, because there's been, I guess, a lot of negativity in life in the past, but I guess, I understand that I try to focus that the past is the past, and that the only way to get to the place where I want to be is by focusing on being forward and moving in the right direction and being smart about what I'm doing, being smart about who I associate with and what types of investments I'm doing. Trying to take kind of more of a long-term aspect as opposed to a quick route, which maybe is kind of what I did before to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm. Nana, what about you?
I mean, I think I'm always out of my comfort zone. Being out of my comfort zone is the most comfortable place for me.
Has it always been that way for you?
No. But I've had periods of my life where it has been, and then other times, because I was always the kid that would do. I've always was the kid that would take that risk and get in trouble all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then as I grew up, I lost that, and now I put myself there with wisdom, because I can be a little more calculated about putting myself in an uncomfortable zone. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I'm doing it haphazardly. I'm trying to be strategic and do that.
Yeah. TJ, I want to ask you a specific question. You have shared a lot of your goals over the past few weeks with us in terms of the direction that you want to go. Outside of a coach, which you have, do you have someone that has kind of done what you want to do that you communicate with on a consistent basis?
No, I really, really don't. I talk with a lot of very good loan officers at my company, but not on a consistent basis. I'll reach out to them if I have a question about something specific and kind of figure out how they do things, but not like something I talk to consistently.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that question is because the very first bullet point underneath what a growth environment looks like is others are ahead of you. Yeah. And so one of the most common things that you'll hear is if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to be in a different room.
That's right.
Right. And so if there's a certain level where you want to go that is much higher than where you are now, it's always helpful to get in a room with individuals that can pull you to that level. So whether it be within McLean or with other companies, I think it's really important to find a mentor or someone that has built the business to a certain level that understands what the path looks like to help you get where it is that you want to be. So that's one of the things I would probably challenge you with is to be open to receive someone in your life that would help you with that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because, you don't want to reinvent the wheel and redo things the hard way when you can learn from somebody that's already been there and done that. And,
Absolutely. So I want to ask you guys a specific question before we move to the last law. And TJ, I'm going to start with you, okay?
Sure.
And I'll repeat it for Scott and Annette, because this is something that's come up in some of the different conversations that I've had with people. The question is this. Since we started this mastermind, and since you've been participating in this mastermind, what is something that has become clearer to you about your life and or your business?
Something that's become clearer to me. I don't know if this necessarily is something that's been clear, but it's something I've known and something that keeps getting reemphasized to me is, and I was going to say time management, but what do we say? It's life management.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, so often I'm reactive to what's going on just because I am not much of a planner. I've never been. That my personality is more of just, you know, whatever, you know, just kind of go with the flow, laid back type person.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you live your life and your business like that, you get pushed around by other people's expectations and desires for you and not necessarily where you want or need to be going. So the more I hear that and the more I think about it, the more I become intentional about my time. And even when I catch myself often, you know, where I'm not using my time efficiently, and I'm like, why am I doing this? So it's at least coming up more often in my mind to at least thinking about it and trying to plan out my days. And, you know, even my free time after work, you know, it's just making sure I'm using that effectively to where I'm spending time with my wife and doing the things that we enjoy, and that'll kind of regenerate and rejuvenate you.
Yeah. You know, I appreciate you sharing that, because I think you had a very distinct moment of vulnerability with the question of, why am I doing this? I think that when you take that extra step from time to time to ask yourself that question and relate it to the question of, is this in harmony with my purpose and where it is that I want to go? I believe that you will find that some of the things that are distracting you, that you're allowing to distract you, will find their way to get leveraged to someone else or to not exist at all.
Yeah.
So
that makes
Scott,
sense.
yeah. So Scott, same question. Since we've been going through this study, what is something that has become more clearer to you?
Well, you know, I definitely feel TJ's pain. I know, like, my personality type, and whenever I do any personality assessments, they talk about how I have a tendency to be, I guess, you know, trusting my own ability to wing it and not be as prepared as I should.
Mm-hmm.
So I might have trouble communicating with certain people because of not going into detail enough or not being as prepared as I should be.
Yeah.
But that being said, I really think the biggest thing for me is that while I thought maybe I was being very purposeful, I think I've realized that I'm not being as purposeful as I should be,
Mm-hmm.
forcing me to become more purposeful and less reactive and more, you know, planning ahead of time for my day and for my week and for my month and for what I want to achieve.
What about you, Nanette?
Well, I was jotting down this so that I'd have my thoughts together. But I think that the one thing that stands out more than any of the others is that people are really, really, really important.
Mm.
And not to take people for granted.
Mm-hmm.
The course of the last few months, that has just been running home for me. And so, you know, people are super, super important, period. And then the next thing was I've been on a course to really take a look at myself and what it says on page 137, that all significant battles are waged within self. And so this has been my journey for the last long time, but accelerated in the last few months. And then thirdly is the cost of my time, and to put it on to write it down, whether it's written down in my to-do list or written down on the calendar, and a plan, write it down. And, you know, I even wrote down I'm getting this way that I'm even writing down that Nanette, we had a tornado here like last week, right?
Yep.
And so I have like 13 trees in my house, in my yard. And there are sticks all over the place. I can't even mow my grass till I go pick up all the. So I put on my calendar, pick up the sticks in the yard. Even doing that, something simple. I haven't done it yet. It's keeps repeating to do that tomorrow, but
right.
But nonetheless, it's on the dang calendar, which is something I never would have thought about doing. So those three things would be that people are really, really important, and that the battles that I have are within myself. And the lastly is that write it down, make a plan.
Write it down and make it a plan. So you had jumped into Law 15, which is leaders distinguish themselves during tough times. And so on page 139, John was talking about a letter that he received from Kent Millard. And he was talking about the time where Kent went on vacation in Alaska, and he had an opportunity to meet a gentleman that won the Iditarod. I hope I pronounced that correctly. The dog race that's there every year from Anchorage, I believe. Anchorage to Nome. Right? I had that right. Okay, I got to have more confidence in myself. And I underlined that it was a joy to experience Jeff's love and passion for his 70 Huskies and his admiration for their maturity, strength, and courage. And so it's really interesting that you talk about the importance of people, right? I'm willing to bet that Jeff sees those Huskies as you see people. Because when he won his third race, he basically held up the lead dog and basically said that this was the reason why they won. Mm-hmm. And so when I look at love and passion and maturity and strength and courage, these are characteristics that we should exhibit as people. Because when we exhibit those characteristics as people, we become attractive leaders. Because people are attracted to people who are loving, that are passionate in what it is that they do, that they really believe in what they do. That for me, maturity spiritually, maturing in relationships, maturing in how I do business, all of those things have helped me become a better leader of my clients and other individuals that I get an opportunity to lead on a team. And it takes strength and courage sometimes during those tough times to make tough decisions and move forward within your own intuition to believe that this is the right way to move. So that was something that jumped out of me in the book, was the fact that these are great characteristics to have to not only attract others to you, but distinguish yourself as a great leader.
I want to just take a second. I have to go show some property, so I'm leaving. Well,
that's good because we were at the end, so this was good.
I'm walking out, and
yeah,
and
awesome. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it, Nanette.
I'll see you next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Go over my stuff.
Okay, cool. Scott, is there anything in relationship to, if you were going to give someone advice with regards to the battle within? Nanette was talking about how there are voices and things that you have to fight inside of you internally to overcome, to be a better leader of yourself and with other people. Is there any particular steps or exercises that you would recommend people do to help them battle, to handle the battle within, the struggle that they have within themselves?
Well, I'd say, each person has something that kind of works for them. But a lot of times just, focusing and getting excited, and you think about, you know, the reward. What is the reward? I mean, we talk a lot and you know, about pain and reward, and sometimes pain motivates you more than the reward. But when you really start thinking about the reward of doing a certain thing and what it means to you, then it gets pretty exciting over, you know, a period of time. So.
Yeah. How about you, TJ?
Could you repeat the question again?
Yeah. The battle that you have within. There are things I'm sure that you battle with on a daily basis, whether it be the voice in your head or just things that keep you from moving in a way that you want to move. What would be a recommendation that you would give someone to say, this is one of the ways that you fight that battle inside of you?
I think one of the, I mean, it's just persistence and discipline. Kind of like what you were saying earlier, you know, you had to read that chapter on persistence, you know, what was it, 11 times or whatever it was. You know, I think we all get that voice in our head that says, you can't do this, or it's too much, or I'm overwhelmed. And you just got to keep pushing through it. And, you know, I've mentioned that I do a lot of cycling and running and, you know, longer distance stuff. And it's amazing how your mind can talk you out of some of the stuff that you're capable of. Like if you let yourself start talking yourself down and, oh man, I'm so hungry, I'm tired, this hurts, man, you can feel the energy in your body just it's worse and worse and worse. But if you start telling yourself, oh man, this is fun, I'm having a good time, and you know, this is good, it's going great. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, your body will like almost instantaneously react and start feeling better as you start talking yourself up.
Yeah.
And, you know, I love that, you know, I do so much of this endurance type stuff because it really relates a lot back to business and to so many different things. So it helps me when I see that I can talk myself back into a good mindset. I'm like, man, I got to do that in my business too. You know, just because a deal went bad or, you know, this happened or it's been a rough day, you know, you can't dwell on that. You got to focus on the good things and kind of talk yourself back up. And so that's my advice to that. Don't listen to that voice in your head. You gotta keep it positive.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's really good information. So that pretty much ends the next 3 lessons that we discussed in Leadership Gold. And so basically we can pick up at number 16. So we'll do 16, 17, and 18 on next week.
That sounds good.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Thanks, David.
Have a good one.